Hello Nitro fans, Racing 393. And in today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. This is something I'm very new to. So you'd have to forgive me if I get anything wrong here, purely because I've never done it before. So this is still part of my Kyosho build. And I recently, in my last video, I showed you that I purchased this OS Max. Now this is a RB, I think I might have said RBX, but RXB P21. And I got this along with some other bits and pieces for the engine. Knowingly, the guy that sold this to me did say it had a lower compression, but still works. So when I turn this over, there's hardly any resistance there, if I'm honest with you. So I'm just going to remove these plugs for a minute. I'm just trying this with a slightly different camera angle as well, so that I can show you what I'm doing. Now, this video is going to be about trying to pinch the sleeve. Now, incidentally, in this kit, it's here. This is a brand new OS Max piston and sleeve. So I could just put this in and it'd be job done. But I'll go into some more detail later on in the video. But I've got these, I don't know, these should work. 7/8 of an inch clamp. They should be okay. I'm aware the clamp itself, when clamped, still leaves a significant gap. Now, different engine sizes, it's going to have different size sleeves. I get that. The 7/8 of an inch clamp, no, that isn't going to be super tight in there. So what you have to do, because that's not exactly, because that isn't symmetrical, it doesn't actually clamp, you know, like a circle, which is what you want for this. So I've got a little bit of copper pipe here, which at the moment is far too big for this. But what I can do is we'll cut a small bit off this, like a sleeve. We'll cut the sleeve so it pinches, not this particular one, but pinches the top of the sleeve. Everything's called a sleeve at the moment. And you can see on this one, this is a brand new one. Hopefully you can see that. When I push the piston up inside, without pushing it too hard, that's about where the pinch is going to be there. It's probably about 2 to 3 mil. It will go a bit harder than that if I push harder. But that's, when we get this one off, we'll test what the piston's like to see how far up the bore it goes before I do anything. Now, there are other techniques of which you can use to pinch your sleeves, and there's companies out there that do it. I'm just showing you, hopefully, how I attempted to do it. I was informed that the 7/8 of an inch is the correct size. I'm wondering whether that's true. Is I'm going to cut a small part of this. Now I want this sleeve here to probably about 3 to 4 mil. So I've got a pipe cutter here. So I'm going to use that just to cut a small amount off that initially. That's what I'm firstly going to do. Let me do that, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut a little bit of this pipe off as a spacer. So it probably doesn't, it could do probably been a little bit thinner than that, if I'm honest. But I then cut a little notch out. And that's purely when that closes up, it clamps this. Now I'm not doing this one, but I'm showing you how I'm going to do it. So what you genuinely do, because when you clamp this on and you pinch these, it would make sense to pinch it like that, then turn it 180 degrees, pinch it again, and then maybe at the 90 degree, and then 90 degree. Now it's all done on, how can I say, like how much torque you're manually putting in. I've got like a wrench here, which I'm going to undo these so they're loose. And what you do, I'm not doing this one, I'm just demonstrating. So this does fit in there. I want to make sure it's flush in there. So this bit to set up, you do it quite small bits at a time. Making sure that the important thing is, I'm just going to take that, that is kind of clamped in there. Now you can see that there is a slight gap. I'm trying to show that on the camera. Can you see that? That gap there. And at the moment, this sleeve fits in quite smoothly there. So I'll just go down a fraction more and it still goes in fairly smooth. Obviously I'm not going to do this one. A bit more there, a bit more there. It's closing that gap up ever so slightly. It's still loose. I'm just going to check to make sure that I've got enough give. I might have to take some more out of that. So I'm going to keep winding this up. The gap's almost closed now, which might mean, I'll be honest, I might have to take some more out. So let me just go a little bit further. Still not quite closed. And there's a bit of play there. So what I'm probably going to have to do, that's tight now, so that's butted up and that slots in, well, still a bit loose. I mean, it probably could go a little bit more like that. I mean, that's tighter now. But I think I'm going to probably have to trim some more of that. So if I show that sleeve I've put in there, this will be clamped around the insert, the cylinder. And you can see that it's very slightly, it's closed. So I'm going to have to trim a fraction more off that, another little slither. So it tightens up, and that will tighten up around the insert, the cylinder. So yeah, that's how I'm basically, I'm going to try again. So let me go away and just trim a bit more of that off. I've taken a little bit more off. This ain't for demonstration purposes, I've said. So I'll slide the sleeve in. It's still loose, so we'll just, I'm doing it by hand, nipping it up each side. You can't see that, but like this. I'm hoping it won't need any more off. It might do though, so we don't know. So let's clamp that, just take that one off. Trying to keep the pressure the same. So that can come off a little bit actually. And I'll do this one up. And then I'll do this one up. And then do this one up. And then this one up. So that now has clamped just finger tight that cylinder. And if you see in there, let me show you which side I'm looking at. It's not set properly, but can you see? Hopefully you can. There's where the sleeve I've put on there has still got a slight gap. See that? So once you set it properly, you'll pinch this up using a wrench, just gradually. Initially, you do it without the piston in there, just to sort of clamp it down. All you're doing is just squeeze it together. It's very, very slight. You don't want to overdo it, and then we're going to see whether or not we've done enough. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this apart. This is the sort of the theory behind it. I've got to take this motor apart. So this motor here has to come apart to get the sleeve out. It's quite a process to do that. Removing the clutch, one thing another. And considering I'm not completely familiar, I don't actually, saying that, I don't need to move the clutch. It's just the back plate and the cylinder head, the cooling fins. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so let's start taking this apart. I noticed one of the screws was loose. So that's the 6 screws out. We're just going to lift the cooling head. It's got some bits in there which I'm not too happy with, which I didn't know. So that's the bottom of the cooling head. It is a little few bits there, nothing too bad, but there are bits. See that? You can see there's bits in there, so I don't know quite what might have happened. Maybe the piston's broken up a little bit. We won't know until we get that out. I think the next thing to do is to take the back plate off. So there's a slight gap here. Not quite sure how to get that off, if I'm honest. There's absolutely no edge on it. I mean, that's almost like a machine fit. I can see a slight gap, but yeah, I mean, that's one, impressive, two, almost impossible to get out. Because I don't want to damage it. Oh, that's it. Did come out fairly easy in the end. It's got an O-ring on there, which you can probably make out. Now, be careful here, because I don't want to sort of lose where this come out and how it went back in. So the flat edge goes to the top. I think, yeah. It's a nice machined fit. So that's that. And that's the inside. Tie trick. So with the piston sort of towards BDC, we put that through the exhaust port, and that should come up through there, through the top. Now you don't have to link these, because then just pushing the piston up, it does actually release the cylinder wall. It's still tight in there though, so I don't want to. So it just comes up. Can you see that? It does actually pinch the wall, so I'm going to do a bit more. So that's still very tight in there. I can't go much higher because the exhaust port's almost shut. So I need to try and, have I got a clamp? Have I got anything that's going to clamp that without damaging it? I know slightly heating it up with a hot air gun. I do have one, but not here. Could you just warm it up ever so slightly? It might release. So success, I just used that as a lever against the carb and sort of went up and used the lip underneath. It wasn't that tight, but that's the sleeve. It looks exactly like the other one. We'll give it a clean. I'm going to get this, let's get the rod out. I've got to make a note of which way it goes so I don't put it in the wrong way round again. I think I know what I'm doing here. So it came out of the engine. The piston's got a skirt on the bottom, and the other side it's got a skirt which is higher. And it came out, that was exhaust side, I think. Faces the exhaust, so that's the exhaust port, and that skirt went in like that. And you can see, look, just pushing this up very lightly, it almost comes out the end of the sleeve. Very easy, where the other one is tight about there. So that's kind of what you need, but that is too loose. So I think first thing to do is we'll clean this up, just wipe it down, and we'll give it a very, 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 very light pinch. Like I say, this is worn. It may have been seized or been seized because some of the nickel in there's come off. So that's not a good thing. In there, the nickels come apart, which is probably what the bits are. It might run too hot. There's no damage to the piston, just bits on top. So that may be the real reason. Or that's just where it's worn, it's just old. But we've got nothing to lose. I've got another piston there, another rod, so it can be rebuilt. It's not the end of the world. Let me just sort out a bit of rag so I can wipe this down and this and just double check this sleeve before I proceed. I actually think this sleeve's knackered. It's got nickel in there's come away. But I've got nothing to lose. I've got another sleeve and piston, so I may as well attempt to see if I can get it running as this is. So I've set it up, I've put the sleeve is in there, and I've got the sleeve set so it's at this point here where the two halves meet, and at the moment I've got it so that that's where the exhaust port is. So I've only done it up pretty much finger tight at the moment. I can still sort of nip it together. I understand that there's got to be a bit of force running, but I don't want to do too much. So the piston at the moment, see, even that, my fingers, it's tight now in there. So it's pinching it halfway down the bore. So I don't need to go too mad with this. I'm only doing it with the strength of my hand at the moment. Like that. So it's not tight at all. So that, yeah, that's tight there. So I'm going to undo it and spin the cylinder, the sleeve, 108, 90 degrees. Or should I go all the way around? Maybe I should go all the way around. So I've only undone it a tiny bit there, look. So now it moves quite easily in there, so I can spin that round. And without doing anything, yeah, you can see that it's like loose again. So it doesn't take much, although to actually squeeze it uniformly is going to be the key. Apparently this is all done on like feel. At the minute, all I'm doing is finger tight, because it is clamping, and I haven't got the piston in there at the moment. So that's quite tight there. Yeah, that's tighter. It's just clamped it up a little bit. And we're going to try the piston again up there. And it's tight. You see what I mean? I can't get it in there now. So it doesn't take much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clamp it. I'll do it off camera because I need to hold it in a certain position. I don't want to hold it away from me, so I need to feel how tight I'm doing it. And then I'll come back. There's a part, well, not a part 2 to this, but there's a method. If this works, I've got plans for something else, but we'll cover that at the end of the video in the summary. Right, let me use it properly now. Let me just nip it, and then I'll come back. So I've just done it, I've torqued it up, but not hard. I've just done it so it's tight, and then you go like a barely an eighth of a turn, just to, so I've done it on like 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So I've got worked my way around. This is the piston now. So I'll put it in the correct way. And it's tighter there, but I can still push it to the top. But it's definitely tighter than it was. So I think what I'll do now, we'll put the piston in to where the pinch should be, about there, and I'm going to clamp it up again with the piston in there, just into yield, 12, 6, 3 and 9, work my way around the cylinder, the sleeve, and we'll go from there. I mean, it is tighter, it's tight at the beginning there, so it's a bit lower down, don't want it that tight, that low, but there we go, it's about 2 to 3 mil. I'll clamp it up again round. I'm not going to do it too hard because it doesn't take much. So I'm just going to show you. I've got it just lightly clamped with the piston in there. I can't move that now. So that goes to show how, I could have probably pulled it out, but it goes to show how sensitive this is. Unless you're familiar with pressures, torque, a little bit of engineering, I've got a bit. I wouldn't say I know what I'm doing, because this could still be wrong. But yeah, so I'm going to just nip it up. I'll try a little bit of this on camera, but I don't want to do too much. So I've got to hold it in such a position. So like that. So that's quite tight the other side. And like that. So I haven't put it into yield by any stretch, but it's tight. So now I'm going to undo it. That's at what I would call 12 o'clock. Let's just quickly undo that. I'll say quickly, you know what I mean. Let's take some pressure off that, which it is. The piston moves quite freely now, so we're going to turn it 180 degrees. Like so. Put the piston in the correct way again. This bit's a bit fiddly because it's loose in there at the moment. So it's loose. I think I've just got to clamp it again. It was tight. Just about 2 mil from the top. Oops. So, I mean, it's quite tricky to put that in. Keeps falling out. I mean, I haven't done it that tight anyway, so just got to hold it horizontal. I don't want to put any pressure on the rod either. About there. You can see very small amounts. There we go. So that's nipped. It's no, and I can no longer move that piston. So it's going to put it into a little bit more yield, but it's just. So I'm just doing it on pressure. Like that. So it does go more, but it's clamped. It's a bit of like a trial and error. They should feel equally as tight as each other. I can see the piston comes out now quite easily. And I've only done 12 and 6. So I don't know. It was tight earlier on. We'll see. So it's gone loose now. It pushes all the way to the top. And it didn't do that a minute ago. So I'm going to do the other 2 sides. So I've done another sort of round of pinching. I haven't done it that much. It's not very tight. I've just sort of tightened it up by hand, making sure it's as equal each side as possible, and then just nipped it again. So the piston goes in, and I'll push it. It's tighter there now. I'm not saying it's going to work. I can still push it to the top, but it has got some resistance now. Now, bearing in mind, the nickel plate in there is probably knackered. So I think what I'm going to do is clean it up. Put a bit of, I've got some oil, a little bit of oil in the bores, and we'll put it back together. If I get, well, I've probably got a bit of time. I need a bit of time because I'm running out of time now. I mean, there's oil in there anyway. It doesn't need a huge amount, but I just want to clean some of this up. So I won't film this bit putting it back together because you've just seen me take it apart. Probably not a lot of point. Plus I can get on with it. Yeah, I'm just going to reassemble this with a bit of oil, and then we'll assess whether the engine feels any more resistance. As we know, this sleeve is probably knackered, so it probably will run hot, or maybe it's seized at some point because the plating has come off, which is not ideal, is it? But if anything, you can run it a little bit richer maybe and just see whether or not it works. That's the main thing. Okay, it's all back together. It has got more compression. You can hear now. But on TDC, it's got like a, so that's TDC, and that moves like this. If anyone knows what that is, it wasn't doing that before, is it? Because, when you pinch the sleeve, has it got a tight spot? I mean, it's nothing doing it. So it's got the flywheel moves like this. but it's not moving the piston. Let me know what you think. It does come apart again. The piston does go up and down. It's tighter at the top, but maybe it's tight in the middle or something. Maybe it'll run hot and seize. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. I will come back to you regarding another motor experiment. But for now, appreciate you watching. Anyone out there that's got some knowledge on the pinch, or it just feels like top dead center has got play. If that's where it's tight, that'll probably knock the end off, wouldn't it? Break everything. I mean, the bottom dead center's okay. That's smooth. It starts to compress. Top dead center. Yeah, got a bit of play. Anyway, some feedback will be useful if you watch this. Appreciate you watching anyway. And I'll see you for another video with some answers with a bit of luck. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.